Okay, let's also bring on board A. Bala then. And Bala, morning. What a pleasant surprise from the RBI governor this morning. This should definitely make the markets really happy.
Yeah, good morning. Definitely, of course, is a surprise. For a change, this time around, immediately after the budget presentation, after seeing the fiscal number at 3.9 and also the various steps the government had announced, which probably one can argue was anti-fiscal consolidation. So there was a reconciliation. I think most of the people in the market reconciled the fact that we have to kickstart the economy, even if it means it comes at the cost of fiscal. So therefore, the interest rate may not be cut so fast, so quickly. And probably even the whole expectation that got built in the market that 100 basis points cut over a period of 1 year may even be reduced to about 50 to 75 basis points. So keeping this in the background and as well as the expectation which the market was having immediately after the budget, that cut may not come. Definitely is coming on, as you rightly said, that there was a surprise for Pongal. Again, it is coming at a time where the entire market was not expecting a rate cut. So definitely is a big surprise, which also makes me feel that there is a clear understanding between the regulator as well as the government as to what are the priorities at this point of time from the broad economy point of view, which is getting back the growth. So therefore, need to get sufficiently supported by a favorable interest rate regime as well.
That's interesting. Actually, Anish, come in on that. Bala makes a point out here that will the market also now start reading it as there being a greater understanding between the government and the RBI as well? Traditionally, we've been used to this not happening. Can the market now probably read into this too, Anish Damania?
Probably yes. So what I would see is that if I look at this governor, he's stuck to his stance that I'll see more data and I'll act accordingly. So it's irrespective of how the relationship with the FM is, but obviously he's looking at the data. He's looking at the data which is coming out on the inflation front, and then on this budget. And this budget has been talking a lot of other things. So he's relied on that and sort of gone ahead with his rate cut. So I see that he's focusing on data as well, and obviously it is in tandem with what the finance ministry has done with respect to the steps which they have taken in the budget.
Right, but Anish, the point that you make is what I want to ask a banker. Anish, the point that you make is what I want to ask a banker. Excuse me for coming in here, but Ram Sangapure of PNB joins in right now. And Mr. Sangapure, thanks for joining in. Anish Damania, A. Balasubramanium with us as well, market watchers, experts. And they are saying that now is the time for banks to follow suit, now that the RBI is giving out these out-of-policy rate cuts as well. What is your initial reaction? Are you surprised? And what would banks do now? What would PNB do now?
I think this was on an expected line because Reserve Bank of India had made it clear in the last review meeting that, the stance of monetary policy had changed and going forward, rate of interest are likely to go downward. So from that perspective, I think it was on expected line. And now the banks will definitely take a call on reducing base rate. Maybe going forward within a month's time, probably major banks will take a call on it.
We've got a big market voice, or rather big voice as well waiting by. Mr. S.K. Munjal too joins us on the phone line. Mr. Munjal, good morning. It's a happy Holi for your industry. You should be much pleased by this rate cut by the RBI.
Good morning. Yes, certainly. I think it's very welcome. I think the RBI governor had indicated already in his last statement that the RBI's policy stance has changed because of persistent low inflation, global oil prices, and he had given a full set of reason and logic why he made that statement. But he always surprises us in terms of timing, and as you know, the industry had been asking for a slightly larger cut than this, but this is welcome. I think it would help the markets right now. The markets have been much slower than expected. This is certainly a very welcome move, and I hope that he will continue this trend going forward because the oil prices are not showing any sign of looking northwards. So I think for the industry and the economy, This is a good signal, and I hope the banks will pick up this signal and pass on the benefit of lower interest to consumers as well.
Yeah, Mr. Munjal, that was going to be a question later on. We have a banker with us as well, and we'll ask him that. But just wondering, do you believe that this will spur, as you mentioned, the demand for companies such as yours? Because as you rightly said as well, the last couple of months have been slightly disappointing, so to say, compared to the calendar year 2014.
All right, they've certainly been disappointing because the rural markets have actually shrunk across the board for almost all products and services. And the overall recovery in the economy is at least a few quarters behind what was expected. So this would certainly be helpful. Any little bit in making financing available to consumer at a lower cost, making it available to industry at a more competitive rate, helps both the industry and the consumer. And I hope we are now moving towards a virtuous cycle the demand is there. It is the consumption which had got depressed with the high cost of living and the slow recovery.
Mr. Sangapure, what happens now post the RBI rate cut? Do you also pass it on to consumers, and will we see a rate cut coming from you at PNB as well?
Yeah, I think we will call a meeting of the ALCO and review the entire position. And hopefully, we are in favor of now going forward for a cut in rate of interest. Let us review it, and then we'll come back to the market. Hello.
Yeah. Mr. Munjal, PNB just answered something that you mentioned about banks will do that or no. So let's assume that PNB and some of the other PSU banks do go ahead and give the rate cut. But, how do you think the industry will view these moves as well? Ahead of the policy rate cut, 2 rate cuts out of turn or out of policy in the calendar year itself. Does the market now start believing that the RBI and the government are moving more or less in tandem as opposed to being at loggerheads, which may have been a view in certain quarters in the past?
First, I'm not sure they were actually ever at loggerheads. I think this looked like interpretation by sections either of the media or the market. But it's clear this governor has demonstrated that he has a mind of his own, and he will do what he thinks is right when he thinks it's right. And I think that's absolutely fine. And I think it's clear from the statements both of the finance minister and the last statement that the RBI governor made in which direction we are going. And while on bankers, the SBI CMD had made this comment, I think, last time when the RBI announced a rate cut, that they are now sure of the direction, but they will wait for some more signals and then start passing on the lower rates. So I'm hoping that the response from the banks and the NBFC and the entire financial sector would now be prompt and decisive to help move the economy along. Okay.
All right, Mr. Munjal, we'll leave it at that. Thanks so much for taking the time out and joining us. Mr. Sangapure, I request you to stay on. A couple of more questions to you. Just need to look at the bond markets though, and we'll see the reactions coming in the bond markets as well as a result of this. And let's talk about that with Abhik Barua of HDFC Bank. He joins us right now too. Abhik, thanks.